In Italy, about 1994, I came to Italy to teach at Temple University, Rome. I've been in New York since '68, and in the '80s, late '80s, things really changed a lot. It wasn't so much a bohemian downtown scene anymore, and it didn't seem like that was much happening for me in New York. So I had the opportunity to go teach in Rome, so I took that, and I left town thinking I was never going to come back. And I lived in Rome 5 years. And when I was in Rome, I got very involved with seeing all the ancient artifacts. I was teaching in the university, so there were trips to go to Pompeii and all these different things that archaeologists, the professors took students, so I went on those tours. And so I was painting, and little by little, even before that, I was painting very loosely, mostly very much more gestural, But when I was in Italy, if I traveled on the train a lot, I saw a lot of graffiti, and I didn't really like that idea of my work. I wanted to slow the work down, and I wanted the work to be more about color. So I slowly got rid of a lot of gesture in the paintings. And I just went to Voltaire to this Etruscan museum, and they had all the things stacked on shelves. And so I just came to me that I thought I'll just stack the color, a simple format. And the grid came out of thinking really an ancient grid, thinking ancient time and things before in BC time, what was that? So that's what happened, Before all that, I thought about space in terms of landscape space, and so that's where the grid came from, And the grid came out of an idea of making it very simple. I wanted to have a format that's very simple, so the color could be really the complex thing. It'd be about the color. So I like it in the sense that if you explain, if you tell the people, oh, what are the paintings like, and they say, oh, they're colored squares or a grid, you don't really know anything. It's nothing. What I mean? But then when you do see them, it's something totally different. So it's like where the magic is. It was just me trying to find a subject matter that allowed me to be me. So this format allows me to really get involved with color and space and time and touch and things that are painting, So that's why, And it's really simple. I want things to stay very basic. It's like Morandi. I was looking at Morandi a lot too because of Italy, and I just love that. I mean, they're not really complicated issues in terms of what he paints, but how he paints is the issue. For me, painting is not so much what you paint, it's how you paint. So it's really about paint. I don't plan the colors out. So I never know where the colors come from. I don't really try to control the color, and I don't do color studies for the paintings. I just go in and start at the top and go across. It's like, in terms of music, we call it call and response. So color calls another color. So I never know what color is going to be. I never know what color is going to be, or how many colors, or what the color is. It's like I really feel my way. You feel your way across the canvas. So I don't really know. I don't have a think. Oh, this painting's going to be yellow, blue, green. I don't do that. I never know. It's all a surprise. And the way it can be surprised is because the format's so simple that the color can be free. That's how I think about it. I came out of Philadelphia, and it was always music. I mean, there was music. I was involved with music way before I was involved with the paintings. I used to go to New York when I was a young kid at high school and go hear music in jazz clubs, the Five Spot or Slugs. And I identified with those musicians, people like Lonely Monk and Mingus and, Nina Simone, and that music I identified with. As a kid I was looking, you sort of looking for yourself, like where am I? And that's what I identified with, that music. And so those people I was very involved with. when I was off to art school, I thought maybe I'd become an illustrator, maybe, illustrate jazz, albums or something like that. I was very poor, so I thought that's something I could do and make money. But I fell in love with Cezanne right away. And when I saw Cezanne, I thought it looked like it reminded me of Charlie Parker. In terms of all the rhythm and what it was. Everything was equal. It wasn't like the figure was more important than, say, the table or what was on the wall. Everything was equal. And I just saw that I just liked that work, and then I fell in love with painting. So then I had painting. And so little by little, I was able to bring, you sort of little by little, as you get stronger, are able to bring your life into your studio. You're always thinking about what's going to be in your studio. What are you bringing in your studio? And so little by little, I was able to really think about music in terms of my painting. Early on I wasn't because I was too busy with learning the craft. But once I got into the craft, little by little, the music really became a big part of my painting. Well, the titles of the paintings, the titles of it come from a lot of things. I read a lot, I write a lot of things down, so some of them come out of things I read, they come out of music I see, music I hear, albums, they come from all different places. It's funny because I've been naming the paintings so long now that now I'm thinking I'll run out of titles, It's harder for me to come up with titles now because I've used so many titles. But I like to title them, So I paint them, and then I sit with them, or I go through my sketchbooks or what I'm reading, and try to title them. And so I look at them it's like titling your kids. Giving them names, and what name sticks to them. I try different things. But I like them to have titles. That's something I did, and I thought, well, those are great titles. How do you do that? How do you title these things? So I like to give them titles. So it's just as difficult as painting to me, giving these paintings titles. But I have a lot of fun with that sometimes. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's a struggle, sometimes giving the titles. But I don't do that. The smaller ones I make series because I make too many of them, and I can't name all the small ones. So I have series, So that's what I do. Different things like that. But really the titles and everything, it's really like a diary. If you read my titles, you could really find out a lot about my life. The titles are really a real hint at who I am. That's something they asked me to do, and that was kind of funny because I didn't really know who he was, really. But my son did. My son was like, oh my God. My son's about 28. He was like, oh wow, boy, that's really... So I said, okay, and so I did it. So I wasn't really... I haven't followed hip hop too much, I don't follow hip hop that much. But yeah, that's something I did a show in LA with Matthew Mark's gallery, and so I think it was all the work. And so they asked if an artist would do the album covers. So when they asked me that, I said I would do that one, So yeah, that was something that my son said, oh Dad, you gotta do that, So that's how that came about. So Venice, what happened was, they asked me to do a show of the Italian years. So it's really from when I lived in Rome and also from painting in Parma. So that's what that's about. Which is interesting because, now that I'm so older, people are interested in looking at their older work before. I tend not to look back. I tend to look forward. And now it's interesting because now I'm looking backwards and forwards. Looking at work and things that showed up at auction, older paintings. So it's interesting because all of a sudden I have my history is bigger than my history is bigger, than my future. So it's interesting to look back at all that and think about why they make this change or why they do this or how I evolved or decisions I made. So that show in Venice is all the Italian work, from sketchbooks to small paintings, 12 by 12 to some larger paintings. So it's going to be an interesting show, even for me to see, that work, there. So it's the Italian years. And there's something about the Italian years in terms of color and the changes I made in the work, painting in Italy, painting outside of New York school, painting outside of America, that really affected the work. It was a really good time for me to be out of New York.